Hey guys, welcome to Code Decode. So today we will be covering the part 2 of the Hibernate interview questions, and this session will be more of the live demos rather than the theoretical one which we had previously. So let's get started without wasting any time. The very first thing that I'll be covering in this session is how to integrate your Hibernate and Spring application. So basically, most of the time you always have a Spring framework to work on with. So how do you integrate your Hibernate ORM framework into your existing Spring project? So this is a very important question which interviewers do ask, because Spring is nothing but a Java J2EE framework extensively used in enterprise applications. Now Hibernate is the most popular ORM framework. So this is a very important part, that you should know how to integrate your Hibernate configurations into your Spring project so that you can include your ORM database connectivity in your existing Spring application. Now basically we have two simple steps to do that. The first is to add the dependencies in the POM. I'll show you how. And secondly, create the entity controller service and dev layer as per the requirement. So rather than going through this, let me show you how to do that programmatically. So basically I had a Spring Boot app which I've created initially. Now to make that as a Hibernate project, what I have done in addition is that there was pom.xml in Spring Boot application. And how can I prove that it is a Spring Boot application? If you can see, the parent of this is Spring Boot starter parent starter. So basically this makes you sure that what I've created is a Spring Boot project, because the parent of this project is nothing but a Spring Boot starter parent dependency. Now if you go down for what I have done for making my application as the Hibernate project, I have just added simple things, that is Spring Boot starter data JPA to include some JPA dependencies, Hibernate core and Hibernate entity managers for the Hibernate part, and to physically connect to the database I have MySQL connector Java. This dependency actually helps me connect my Hibernate ORM to implicitly connect to the database and put everything which is in my entities instance into the database, or get everything that database has into my instance and give it to you on the front end or the UI that you are viewing. So that's all I have done. So add the required dependencies. And secondly, if you want this project which I have created, please let me know in the comment section. I'll be making this available to you on the Git I have, which is where I put most of my demos there. Okay, and the second part, to make your Hibernate configurations and Hibernate layer complete flow, I'll be having three things there: the entity, the controller, the service, and the dev layer. So the very first part will be my entity. Basically, I'm here creating an employee view for you, right? So I should be able to create a CRUD with the employee entity. That means I should be able to create an employee in the database. I should be able to retrieve that. I should be able to update that. I should be able to delete that. So soon you will be seeing all these four in the controller part, where I'm getting all the employees, where I'm getting an employee by my ID, where I'm getting with the post mapping, where I'm creating or updating my employee entity into the database, and finally I'm deleting a particular employee entity by using its ID from the database. Now first let me make you understand the entity. I'll come back to the CRUD operation soon. So the first thing is @entity, which makes your employee class as an persistable object, which is like good enough to be persisted into your database table. So if it is something which is to be persisted into the table, then it should have a name. So you are telling Hibernate that this is my object, and this object's instance, whenever it will have data, it should be persisted into a table named as this into the database. And internally what Hibernate will do for you, it will actually, when you try to create this employee object into this table underscore employees table, it will actually do nothing but internally call the JDBC statement of insert query. and this is how you will be able to store your employee object into the tbl underscore employee class. So I hope this entity is clear, this table is clear. @id is nothing but a unique primary key for this particular table, tbl underscore employee, and I'm saying that it should be a generated value. I don't want to take a pen to create a new id every time when I create a new employee instance or object in the database. So I'm giving this responsibility to the database table to please maintain the next value as a sequence and maintain the sequence with yourself. So I have this SQL yoke connected with me so as to make sure that you understand it end to end completely. For you as of now, I have implemented 4 IDs into it. I'll show you how to add also. But currently understand that this is my employee instance. So I've said my table should be tbl underscore employee. So if you can see, this is the tbl underscore employee, and yes, it is case insensitive. Even if you put tbl underscore employees as a small big, it will be all small in case. Then @generated value, when I've taken a strategy as sequence, I've told you that if it is sequence, then a Hibernate sequence table will be created, and it will be having a row as next value. Next value will be nothing, but whenever you try to add something, then this ID will be 5 for that particular thing. This is the beauty of having your ID being generated in a sequence way. Now the next thing is the first name, the last name, and the email. I've made sure that you should not make the email as nullable, because I want you to have this condition that please provide your email ID. It's a mandatory thing. So nullable is a false for this. This is just a way to explain how can you put some restrictions on your columns in the Pojo itself. Now @column is nothing but the way in which I want my columns of the table to be created. So table name will be created with this, but the column will be created as this. So if you can see, first underscore name rather than the camel casing first name, and the last underscore name as this. So I hope I'm able to make you understand how the entity works. Now I'll be moving towards the controller part, and the controller part is nothing but a simple request mapping and a REST controller. REST controller, I've already told you, it's a part of two the controller, and one more instances I've told you. But that is a complete part of Spring Boot, so I'll be covering in the second part again. But again, for the Hibernate perspective, understand these 4 things. First, I'm auto wiring my service. So the Hibernate, actually the whole architecture consists of a controller, which is actually responsible for handling your requests from either the front end or the REST APIs. Like for example, I have my post here. The second thing is the service is capable enough to hold your business logic. So I have my business logics here, and the Dove layer or the repositories, which will have a repository for an interface which extends the JPA repository so that you will be able to persist all your data into your databases. So I hope the current structure is clear. If you want, I can show you here in the particular diagram too. Okay, let me go back here. So first is my controller, second is my service, and the third is my Dove layer or your repository, JPA repository in my case. So controller is the one which is responsible to handle all your incoming requests, and it actually maps it to corresponding get, put, post, delete method you have. Then service is the place where you write all your logics of business logics, and the repository is where it is an abstraction to the database or abstraction to the JDBC or JNDA, whatever you are using, JTA, internally to save your data or update your data or delete your data or get something data from the databases. So this is nothing but an abstraction to all those queries which is fired behind the screen. So this is the beauty of Hibernate, and this is the flow of the Hibernate you have. Now continuing forward, @get mapping. This is like getting all the employees with the given ID, but since IDs are unique, you will be getting one single entity of an employee. Then create or update an employee and delete an employee. I hope this much is clear. Now service is nothing but where we put the service logic, delete employee by ID, get employee by ID, and get all employees. Simple as that. Very simple. Now, if this much is clear to you, now let me make you sure of one more thing, that if you go into this repository, you won't be able to find this particular thing, find by id. But since you are actually extending this jpa repository, this is actually having all these methods into it: find by, find all, save all, flush, get one, find all. You have multiple methods here, right? Even it is extending many more things here. So that is why these things are automatically available, and you don't have to override any of these things until it is very important and you have to write some native queries into it. So that was all I have about my structure I've created for you. Let me please proceed ahead. If this much is clear, like how actually I have integrated my Hibernate layers of entity, controller, service and repository into my Spring Boot application. Let me please move ahead to the next part, which is how can we actually see a Hibernate generating the SQL in the console part. So it's a very important thing, because in the next few seconds I'll be showing you the life cycle of an entity, how it actually exists in the persistent context. So understanding that how actually I'm able to see the SQL which is fired at the backend by the Hibernate, which is completely abstracted from you, and all the pain is taken by Hibernate for you to hit that particular query. You just have to write one line of code. So I can show you how. If I say repository.find by id, what is happening behind the scene which you don't know but it is happening is a particular JDBC connection is created. The driver is loaded with class.phoneName. A connection is created using the URL ID password that you have given. Basically, I have given the user ID password here in the properties file. This is something related to Spring, but still, because you don't understand how properties are there, you won't be able to get the clarity. So basically what happens is this class.phoneName, with that you load your driver with connection dot create connection. You actually pass your URL, username and passwords. So this is where you configure all of those things, and the Hibernate delete properties are available here. I've already covered in the Hibernate part 1 that how these properties are important for mappings and the configurations for the Hibernate. The very important thing is how to make sure that whatever query is fired behind is printed on your console, and you are able to see and control what the actual query is being passed. So this is the real important property which I have added for you, so that whenever something I write or I execute, you should be able to see the backend query or the JDBC query of insert, delete, append, create, whatever. So you should be able to see that on my console when I do that, so that you can have a clarity while giving an interviews what actually happens in the backend. So to generate the SQL command that is generated at the backend, we need to add this following property name equals to show SQL. So if you can see the show SQL property, which I've actually overridden, which is by default false. I've overridden that particular thing, I've made it true, and now whenever I try to open the console for you, all those queries will be written here. So now if you're clear why I have done this particular thing, let me quickly move to the third part, that is the entity lifecycle and states of an entity in a Hibernate or the JPA project. So a very first entity lifecycle you have is a new state. So new state is where whenever you try to create an instance, like for example, when I try to HTTP 8080 employees with a post request, it actually goes here in the employee controller, right? So the controller with the post mapping is only one. The method is post, it is expecting application/JSON. Now, whenever you are trying to get into this, create an employee, this employee object, what do you think it is? I am here passing a particular JSON. So it is converting that into an employee object. So what here it is in a new state. So this object employee is in a new state. So a very important thing before I move ahead, just to remind you, in the previous Hibernate video, I have covered the 3 important parts. The session factory. A session factory is nothing but a way to like an interface available in Hibernate to handle multiple sessions. So suppose I have 3 databases. SQL, MySQL, MS SQL, and Oracle. Then I probably need one session factory but multiple sessions, or multiple session factories with multiple sessions into it. So one session factory will be for one database. So I have session factory underscore x SQL, which will be loading the properties only for the SQL database. One session factory for the Oracle, which will be getting the properties for Oracle database. And the third session factory 3 instance for my MS SQL database. So a session factory consists of number of sessions. I can create n number of sessions into it whenever I want to, and each session is actually consisting of a transaction interface, if you remember. Now, a very important point here is that whenever you create a session, you create a transaction, everything goes from this transaction and goes into the databases. Now, just a second. Whenever you have a particular session, you do have a persistence context into it, if you remember. What is this persistent context is for? If you can recall, I have told you in the previous video that Hibernate by default has the first level cache already implemented. So how does Hibernate actually implement this first level cache? Hibernate implements this first level cache through persistent context. So whenever you create a new object, persistence context does not know about it. So what it happens is, whenever you try to get a new instance or create a new instance, it is not available in the persistent context, no first level cache is done. When you try to save it, session is smart enough to save it in the persistent context, make its state from new to managed state because it is present in the persistent state, and when the transaction is committed, it is available in your database. Similarly, when you start your application and you try to fetch a particular entity with a particular given ID, that particular persistent context is currently empty, so there is no first level cache implemented. So whenever that object comes, you ask for that, it comes in the persistent context and then it comes to you. So basically that object comes as a managed state, if you can see here, the managed state, and then you can get to yourself. So basically these are the two main states, the new state and the managed state. Now when the second time, when you try to get the same object from the database, now Hibernate session is smart enough, it goes and search into persistent context if it is there. If it is there, then it will return you the same object without going into the database actually. And this is how your number of data queries reduces and hence your efficiency increases. So this is an importance of persistent context. If you have any object in its persistent context, that means it is in persistent state or the managed state, and you don't have to hit a database query. So how will I prove that to you that no database queries actually executed? This is how I do that for you. I actually have done this particular property for you, like show SQL. So whenever a new instance is there and I try to get it, a query is printed like insert or select from the database. But if that particular object is getting from the persistent context and not from the database, then no insert query will be printed on the console. So remember this concept very, very, very importantly, that if a particular object is in managed state, no database query will be printed on my console. So now I'm going to prove you all these steps in just a second. Okay, so first let me show you that whenever I create an object, then it does not exist in a persistent context. So how do I do that for you? I'll actually create a session factory and then I will open that session for you, and then I will have one particular session. This particular session I'll be having for you with this particular line number 56. Then I'll be creating a transaction. This is the basic transaction. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be asking whether the session contains my new object that I'm creating using this key value pair or the JSON instance. So this is a new instance, like I'm creating as a new keyword. It's same as that particular thing. Then it should return me that employee with the fourth or fifth instance, the exist status should be false. That means it should not exist. So here it should come false. So let's see, let me try that for you. So if you can see, I do have my fourth instance here. Now I'll be creating my fifth instance. So let me hit this. If I am in a debug mode, oh no, it's not even started. So let me relaunch it. Okay, this is starting for me. Perfect. So it says started my application. Now I'll remove my console so that you can see what is happening behind. Now if I send it, you can see my debugger is coming here. And I should remove my console for you. And I should place it in like here. Okay. Now if you can see, I'm on my session instance being created. If you can see, I have my session instance created here. Now I'll be beginning my transaction, and if you can see, I have a fifth instance, right? So if I do a debug mode for you, it says that my first name is code decode 5, my last name is instance number 5 that I've given here. The same I have given here is what I've like getting here. The id is null because id I have given as a auto generated, that is why it is null. Now do exist should give me false, so yes, it is giving me false, and it should print that code decode 5 instance 5 exist status is false. So basically it does not exist. So what I'm trying to do here is create or update an employee. So let me get into that. So if I say that entity is null, please save that entity. And whenever you are trying to save that entity, if you can see, this is the query which is created and it was not available. It was just the status we have this. So can you see, whenever a new instance is created, it is not available in your persistent context. That is why a query is hit to the database and simultaneously gets into the present persistent context also. Now since it is created and it says that insert and update as the next value as 6. So can you see it as 6? Yes, it is 6 now. Now it says that whenever you try to add another instance, the id will be 6. And the second says insert into table employee, where email id, first name, last name will be these values that I have given. So if I can see, I do have my fifth row with my code decode 5 and instance 5 that I have created. So this is how you insert a query. So if this is clear, let me go ahead. Now I ask you, does it exist? And it says false because the transaction is still not like having that updated thing. Now this is done, and you understand that if you can see here, my persistent context does not have a new entity here until it is fetched or persisted in the database and transaction is completed. The transaction was not completed here and hence it was not available for you. Now what I have to do is to make sure that it does exist in the persistent context, I'll be fetching, just a second, I'll be fetching a particular employee object. I'll uncomment this part. Okay, now okay, what issues do I get here? Ready to employ. Okay, perfect. Now, and I'll be commenting this part. Okay, now what I'm trying to do here for you is that I'm going to get the employee instance for the given id 2. So if you can see, I do have the 2 instance here available, code decode and instance 2. So initially when I restart my application, my persistence context will be empty. When I try to get it from it, the persistent context will actually fire a query because it is not present in the managed object. So then let me make this work for you and then you will understand. Just a second, let me start this particular instance for you. Okay, perfect, it started. Okay, I'll remove the console for you. Now let me put a debugger here. Now I'm going to create a 6th instance. because fifth is already persisted, I need a new instance so as to showcase the persisted or the managed state to you. So now I'm going to send this. Okay, so as soon as I send it, okay, my console should be here. It says that the code sixth instance does not exist in my session's persistent context. Now I'll try to get the second instance. So as soon as I get my second instance employee object, can you see first name as code decode and instance number 2? So that's perfect. That's what I was expecting. So Hibernate has given me a query here. If you can see, it was not available in the previous console, right? It was only till the status equals to false. So since it was the first time I'm trying to fetch the second ID or the instance 2, the Hibernate is actually updating or like actually querying the database directly, because persistence context does not have an instance with an ID 2. Now if I say does this particular thing, I'll be printing in my console that does the employee 2 exist. So it says now yes, instance 2 exists because a query is fired, and as soon as the query is fired to fetch something from the database, it actually gets into the persistent context and then it returns to you. That is why it says that instance 2 now it does exist in your persistent context. It was initially false, but now it is true because you have went into the database. And how do you prove that you went into the database? By this query. You're trying to select an employee from the TBL employee where the ID I've given as 2, and when you get it, you get into the persistent context and it says that session does contain your employee. Now what I'm trying to do in the next line is I'm trying to find whether my session contains the employee 2 or not again. So again, a query should not be fired because it's the same line. The 65 line and 72 line number are the same. Both are trying to get the same employee object. But when you try to do it as a 65 line number, it is a new instance. Persistent context does not contain the employee instance 2. But now you can see in the code itself that persistent context contains instance 2. So whenever you try to again get an instance with the long 2 or the ID 2, a query should not be fired like this. And rather than that, you should get the same instance from the persistent context. So let me show you how. Can you see this particular line is like completed from the debugger side and there is no query fired. Hence it proves the point that it does exist in the persistent context and hence a query is not fired. So I've written this code offline like it doesn't exist, and when I try to get it, a query is fired. When I try again to get from the same persistent context, it does not fire a query and says it is already present. So I hope this much is clear to you for the two instances I have. Just a second. The new state, the managed or the persisted state. So whenever a new instance is created and persisted, it goes into DB only when the transaction is completed, then only it comes in the managed state. Similarly, when you try to fetch something from the database, first it gets into the managed state and then it is returned to you. Now the two steps, the two states remaining are detached state and removed state. So whenever you try to close your session, all the entities present in your persistent context, all the entities present in your persistent context comes into the detached state. The another state is session.remove. If you try to remove one particular object, it comes into the removed state, and whenever you try to get back and it removes from the persistent context. And whenever try to persist explicitly that particular object, then only it gets into the managed state. So I hope this much is clear. I'll show you these two states in a second to you. So please let me know in the comment section if you have issues in the first two states I have shown you. Now I'll be moving forward to the another life cycle state. So I've created another get mapping for you which shows the entity life cycle. So let me get you to here first. So let me start my console again so that my persistent context is completely empty. Here again I have created a session object and I have begun my transaction. Now, since my session object is persistent context is completely empty, the session will not have the instance 2 with the id 2. Instance 2 is this. Instance 2 is with the id 2. It will not be having that. Hence, a query will be fired at this particular line and you will be able to print your instance 2 code decode 2. Now it will ask you, does it exist? So it should say yes, it should exist, because you've already fired it a query, and whenever you try to query something, it gets into the managed state automatically as soon as it is returned. So it should say yes, true, it should exist. Now if I clear everything, now you are trying to ask for the same employee object, it will say no, it does not exist. So here it should print no, it does not exist. And when you try to delete a particular object, it comes into the removed state. So this is the third state, the transient state, or the state which is called detached state. And this is the removed state. So at line number 113, it comes in the removed state. So let me show you if my instance is ready. Yes, I have started my application. Now let me first take you to the controller. So controller, I have entity lifecycle. So let me get back. Do I have? Yes, I do have my entity lifecycle instance available. I try to hit and it should get into my controller first. Yes, it is into my controller life entity method. I do F5 and get into it. So yes, I'm starting this particular thing, and okay. As soon as something changes, I should be knowing it. Okay, so I'm creating a session object, I'm beginning my transaction, and I'm now here. I don't have anything till here. I'm clearing the console, right? Now there is nothing here. There should be one instance, a query fired, which is trying to get a particular instance of employee with ID long2 from the database, because currently my persistent context is completely empty because I've just started my application and I've created my session here. So session persistent context is empty. So it should, whenever I go beyond line 101, a query should be fired at the backend. So yes, a query is fired at the backend. It says that select an employee where employee ID is a given employee ID. Now I close this, and yes, it is being here updated here. Great. Now I'll go ahead, I'll try to print, and it prints code decode instance 2 code decode 2. This is the first name. Okay, if you can see, the first name is code decode 2, last name is instance. So that's what I've printed, code decode 2 instance 2. Okay, so I'll close this again and I'll try to put it here again. Okay, so this is what I have here. Now I try to ask whether my persistent like session or the persistent context contains this employee. So it says yes, it contains, and it prints that yes, the code instance is present in the persistent context. Great. Now what I do is session.clear. So now here when the session is cleared, it comes in the detached state. So let me clear the console for you quickly. You understood this part, that select query, whenever you try to get a new instance, here the instance 2 was the new, it was not in the persistent context. Hence your Hibernate went to the database, asked for that particular thing, and came back with the particular result, and it's stored into it as a first level cache. Now when I clear it, that particular employee is completely cleared, instance 2 is removed, and now when I try to ask for this employee with instance 2 name, it should say it is false because the session is cleared and now the employee object is existing as a detached object and it not in the persistent context. So you can see code decode instance 2, the existence is false. It is not present in your session object's persistent context. Now you understood what is the clear thing. What does the clear do? It makes your instances, all the instances available in your persistent context go into the detached state. Now what is the removed state? So whenever you try to delete an instance, then it asks you, does removing gets it back to the persistent context? Answer should be no, it should be false. So it says false. But do you remember one important thing? This is the major difference between JP and Hibernate. If you have an object in the detached state, then JPA does not allow you to remove or delete it. But when it comes to Hibernate, you are able to delete even an object which is present in a detached state. So this is a major difference between Hibernate and JPA. Hibernate allows you to remove or delete even the detached entity. And as soon as I try to complete this particular thing and a transaction is completed, my instance will be deleted. I don't want to do that. So currently I'm actually closing my server. But this is a very important point to note from the interview perspective, that the difference between JP and Hibernate is that Hibernate does allow you to remove an object which is in detached state, but JPA does not allow you to do that. So I hope I have covered all the states for you and the permutations and combinations I have. Please let me know in the comment section if you want this complete demo project I have created for you. I'll provide the git link for this particular thing so that you have it in your application or the STS or the Eclipse, whatever, and you can try and test your application as in when you want with the different parameters. I do have many more things to be covered, but the time doesn't permit me, like how transaction management works, what is the difference between get and load. But I don't have that time for that particular thing. So I'll be creating another video for the same. So please stay tuned and let me know in the comment section if you want this particular video to be uploaded. Thank you.